to another episode of the Classic Libertarian. Today we're going to talk about inconsistencies and the modern Christian ideology when it comes to being pro-life, but also being pro-war and being pro-death penalty. And to do that, I'm going to talk to Steve. He's on Twitter. Steve, go ahead and plug your Twitter or let people know about you a little bit.
Okay, hey, how's it going?
I'm good.
My name is I'm Steve. I'm kind of anonymous because I sometimes tell the truth too much, and I don't want to give away my current location or myself too much publicly. But I think you found me because my name on Twitter is pro-life equals anti-war, and then the at is Shinjitsu say, but I think pro-life equals anti-war is what we're talking about. So that's a way to find me. And you can pop that in the show notes there if you want.
I absolutely will be.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically been my kind of, I don't know, big push recently because I listen a lot to Dave Smith and Tom Woods, and they are awesome. And especially Dave Smith loves to be pointing out about war is the most important issue. And I grew up in a conservative family, Christian family, but definitely not anti-war family. We were pro-life for like unborn children, of course, but not worried too much about all the kids that dive through the bombs and the starvation campaigns that America participates in, right? So that's been coming more of my issue recently, like the last couple of years. So that's why I put that as my name. So yeah, that's.
Now, I bet that's understandable. I'm kind of the same position. I grew up in a very Christian conservative upbringing. All my friends and family, I don't know anyone who was at least a little bit anti-war. Like everyone in my immediate family to extended family to second cousins I met at a family reunion, everyone pro-war, Southern, heck yeah, let's kill them all.
Yeah.
It's and uber religious. Like at the same time, it's very frustrating. Like so many scriptures in the Bible about. I mean, we literally follow Prince of Peace. It has to be obvious. It's no, but I'm trying to figure out why. Like what is this connection between Christians who should be, because there's so many scriptures and so many Christian reasons to be anti-war or at least hesitant for war. So wait, what is causing this? What is causing all these Christians to go hardcore down the war route? Is it blind patriotism? Is it buying to the propaganda of the government? Is it Romans 13 taken to the extreme? Like, what do you think it is?
Yeah, that's for sure. I think a lot of people, I saw you on Twitter. Somebody was like, you can't be a Christian libertarian because that doesn't make sense or whatever. And it's like, come on. Like we should follow Christ, not any government. So we can't say, well, our government's good, so whatever they do is righteous. And I think a lot of churches have, well, they have I know my churches when I grew up, they had like the Christian flag and the American flag, and there's nothing wrong with per se with the American flag, but it's just like, what is our focus in the church? Like, why do we need to have the American flag at the front of the church? Like, we have the cross, of course, but why do we have to have the flag up there in basically the same equal level? Like, we should only bow to Christ, not to the flag. So I think that's a big part of it, and like just growing up in America, a lot of times, especially in the 80s, like, oh, Reagan, we kicked those commies butts, and all that. So, and then, we kind of transitioned. It's like I think, I forget, Tom Woods or Scott Horton mentioned, like, basically once we saw the end of the communists in Russia, then George Bush is like, well, let's go against this Saddam Hussein guy that we were his friend. Now we don't like him. So let's go to war with him. And, it's like, well, he's a Republican and he says he's a Christian. So we got to follow that. And we got to, get into this new war.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that one seemed pretty much, I think it was pretty successful campaign. I mean, we didn't lose that many people and that sort of thing. So we were like, yeah, go war, rah, yeah, rah, rah. And then other people forget, 9/11 was not the beginning of history.
Yeah.
Like, why, people are like, oh, they just woke up on September 10th and were like, you know what, those Americans walking around in blue jeans, I really hate them. They got freedom of religion and freedom of speech, and they got all these, great freedoms over there, and I hate that. So we should go over there and bomb them, or take them out with those airplanes. Like, obviously that took more planning, and most people don't even realize how we trained bin Laden to do that to the Russians, to bring the Russians into Afghanistan. So he did the same thing to us.
And what so many people forget, or outright ignore about our response to 9/11 is that bin Laden was trying to drum up hatred for America before 9/11 and didn't get enough people on board. Got a few, but not a whole lot. After we actually started dropping bombs, we legitimized all his claims about us, and he used us as recruiting pits. Like, that's how. Honestly, when I first heard that, blew my mind. That we're so bad at this. It's like we literally give all, like, every bomb we drop is a recruiting pit for someone to go join a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating to think about. And the Christians who are uber supportive of it, it's just like, and for Christians who are, what's the best word to put this? They can get overly focused on one thing and become very based in that one thing and unable to think about it critically. Like you see some people who are Christians who are pro-life. They go very pro-life. I mean, I'm Catholic, so my church kind of goes on all the way pro-life. My church is anti-contraception. But to see people who are pro-life also be anti-contraception is very weird, because it's like the goal is to prevent abortions. One way to prevent it is prevent pregnancy. Preventing pregnancy is not an abortion. And you see how many Christians get this roped down and this, like, the very commodity. They're just like, no, this is it, all aspect. And for them to at the same time apply that same artistic vigor to abortion issues, when it comes to war, they apply the same vigor, all in the wrong direction. I mean, we have Christians who are openly saying, like, I'm a pro-war Christian. It's like, what are you? It's like saying I'm a I can't say him now because it's just so stupid. I mean, he literally worshipped a guy called the Prince of Peace, and you're saying you're pro-war. How does that work out? And that's not even the worst kind of Christian, pro-war people. Like, have you ever met the kind of Christians who want to bring about the rapture and revelations? So they think the only way to bring that out is to ramp things up. So they want to deliberately make things worse with warfare. Have you met these types? It's just
I've heard of that.
Like, you talk to them, you're just like, where are you coming from?
Right. I mean, besides the fact that you're asking for a lot of people to die, and it's maybe before their time or that sort of thing, like, don't you trust that God's going to do it in his time? Why do you need to push it, forward faster?
Well, I've had this joke every time. I have some cousins who are very into this, trying to guess the exact date. He's been wrong every time, obviously. Every time he tells me the new date, I'm like, God just moved it. No man shall know, and you keep guessing. Okay, stop it. He's moving the date.
God's like, I was going to do it that day, but since you picked it, I'm not.
Exactly. It's just going to keep going on and on and on forever, because people aren't going to shut up about it. At the same time, like, you talk to people who are like, I think it was someone keeps throwing this at conservatives, like, oh, you're pro-life, but you're pro-death penalty, and always spout out some plaid to, like, well, I'm for protecting innocent people, and it's like, well, then be against the death penalty, because innocent people get killed with that shit.
Right.
It's
not to mention, like, everyone's guilty technically. I mean, that's
you
what the Bible says. Everyone's guilty. So
yeah, this
I think life in prison is, it's still punishment,
yeah,
and I
it's not
think they
great.
deserve. They deserve. It might be worse than death, actually.
Mm,
Some of that
yeah,
prison. Um.
I mean, if that must
So
mean law prisons, the U.S. prison system is absolute garbage.
right.
No, I've always argued with students. Like I try to point out all the evidence for how inaccurate people who are pro death penalty have to have 100% faith in our court system. People who
Yeah.
have any doubt in our court system and still have a pro death penalty view are just stupid people.
Right.
Like if you ever talk to them, like someone that like let's say I've really talked to these people and they're like, our court system is broken, it's highly inaccurate, I don't trust it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I
Mhm.
agree. They're like, yeah, but the death penalty is still a good thing on some circumstances. I'm like, if we're gonna have a death penalty that is dealt out by a court, you cannot have a margin of error when it comes to people dying. You
Right.
know, I mean, we currently have a 4.7 margin of error, the latest statistics when it comes to the death penalty. I told this to a guy, and his response was 4.7% is not that high. It's like that. I don't care if it's 1%. We're talking about the state murdering innocent people. That should be a
Right.
zero. That
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah, you can spend like 10 or 15 years in prison and get let out once they find you're innocent, but when you're dead, there's no, well,
mhm.
let's bring it back to life because he was
Yeah,
innocent. Like it's too late.
it's so
Um,
broken.
yeah. And like also like when I was younger, there was one of Nixon's guys was Charles Colson.
Mhm.
I don't know if you heard of him, but he was in jail obviously because he was with Nixon in the whole fiasco, and he was working in prison ministry. Like he became a Christian, and he became really, that was his like claim to fame, I guess.
Mm,
After, like, I knew him for doing prison ministry. Later, I heard he had been working with I was like, oh, why he was in prison was he was caught with Nixon and all that. So
mm,
like, okay, well, okay, that makes sense. But um, so he was doing prison ministry, and if you think that people that need to know about Christ, I think it's people in prison, especially people who did something worthy of the death penalty.
mm,
Um, so instead of giving them death before, by whatever needle or something, they
mm.
should be ministered to or given chances to, know about, think about the afterlife. Like don't just say, well, they should be killed because they killed somebody. I understand that. I used to really believe that, like they forfeited their right to life because they
Mhm.
killed somebody, but it's like, God wants to bring everyone to him. So
Exactly.
prison ministry, for those guys that are lifers, that's better than ending their life.
Mm,
So it's never too late, right, to choose
exactly.
to serve God. So, I don't want them to be forced, you know,
Mm.
today is
Believe
the
it or
day you're going to die. Like they
believe it or
have that.
not, this is. Do you know Michael Knowles is one of those Catholic conservative dudes from the Daily
Uh,
Wire?
I think so.
Okay, Michael Knowles has the argument about the death penalty. It's probably the dumbest one I've heard, and I've heard some doozies. His argument for the death penalty is when you put someone on death row, they are now more receptive to Christian teaching because they're going to die. And so when you
Oh,
put someone on death row, they have to start questioning their own mortal soul, and therefore can lead to Christianity. And so, as a
wow,
conversion mechanism, we should use the death penalty. I'm adding
wow,
in that part as a joke, but that's when you hear them talk about it, that's what it sounds like. It sounds
yeah.
like to convert people to Christianity, I'm gonna put them on death row. It's like that does not sound like the best way to do it.
That sounds like the old Crusaders and
Mm-hmm.
the convert or die type. Like, yeah,
Oh,
they'll think about it if you point a gun at their head.
mm-hmm.
I don't know how
It's, it's
how
terrible.
sincere they will be.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
that's true.
it's
Um,
absurd. And uh, it's honestly like this is why the people who like so basically make the paleo libertarian argument,
mm,
like dealing like Christians make up the majority of the voting population, I believe so, and so many of them are so stuck in their Republican roots that
uh-huh.
maybe he has a point about trying to find some way to reach them better because this it's as someone who is a Christian, it's getting pretty annoying to see all these Christians who are out there being things like, "Oh, abortion is murder." Also, we need to get somehow we need to cut the federal budget, but also increase military spending. Like the inconsistencies in these Christian statists is so annoying, especially when you actually try to talk to them about it, because it's just like what you're saying is absurdly. I don't know. It's just so stupid. It's like just think for a moment. Just think. I always get it's especially when they start trying to bring race into it. You know, you're just kind of like, just stop, old people. Okay, I don't. So what do you think it stems from? Do you think the Christian pro-war stems from trust and faith in government and patriotism? Because patriotism, or do you think it stems more from anti-religious sentiment of the against Muslims? Like, what do you think is more driving for the pro-war Christian? Propaganda or hatred of other religions? Because you hope it's the first one, but you talk to these people and it sounds like the second one. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to think that it might be kind of a, like a crusader thing again. Like, oh yeah, they, like, because you can go back and forth arguing about the Crusades and all that, because obviously, the Crusaders were taking back Jerusalem because they'd been attacked for hundreds of years and all this. I understand, I know all that history, but that's not the reality today. Today they're most of the people there that are being killed are just like shopkeepers, and they're like going to a wedding or something, and then we just blow them up because there was one guy who was, I don't know whatever their excuses are, but
the amount of innocent people that get hit when we drop a bomb, it's just like, I mean, what is? I don't know.
I can't remember the name, but there was an American citizen who happened to be Muslim, and he was basically working with Al Qaeda, working for Al Qaeda. So he was a bad guy, but I think they blew up a coffee shop. It's like, was he alone in the coffee shop? Was the owner of the coffee shop, did he get paid back for his coffee shop being destroyed, or is he dead? Like, and then they killed his son a little bit later, and I think the same thing. Like, they bombed one, this kid. He probably wasn't even that. His dad may have told him true things about the bad things America's doing, and okay, so he might have been anti-American, but he had good reason, especially after they blew up his dad. It's like,
what's that quote?
To die without a trial, like.
No, it's. Oh, that's another point they bring it. The Christian conservative will bring up, where it's like, I support due process for American citizens. If you're not an American citizen, you actually don't have the right. And it's like, we don't have rights as American citizens. We have rights as people. Like, that's a very, very founding belief in our Constitution and Declaration of Independence that you claim to love so much. Yeah, the moment someone's citizenship isn't immediately your neighbor, you say fuck them. It's
right. I mean, it's like the torture thing too. It's like, well, those guys can be tortured because they're not Americans. It's like, yeah, well, they're innocent people half the time, and we pawn them off to the Egyptians or the Jordanians because they're not under the same rules as we are. Like, we know what they're doing there, so we shouldn't just say, well, we're not doing it.
It's
just like with Yemen. Like, nobody really talks about that. I mean, God bless Dave Smith for bringing it up all the time when he's on TV, because nobody else even knows what's going on there. It's like, oh, well, America's not doing it. Yeah, well, we're providing the planes and the fuel and the bombs. And
I bring this up. I bring this up to my family because I was at my last family gathering. I brought up anti-war stuff because I was tired of it. Well, that ended up being a fun 2 hours. They don't believe you. Like, you bring up what we do when it comes to bombing, the double tap policy, who we aim for, or margin of error, how we classify what an adult is, or what a enemy combatant looks like. You start explaining these things to them, and it's so absurd and extreme. They don't believe you. They sit there like, that's just far left CNN fake news propaganda trying to convert you against the government. And it's like, no, the government actions are converting me against the government. Like, this is
Well, and that's part of that like mental gymnastics. It's like most conservatives don't trust the government, especially like Obama and Biden,
Mhm.
but like, well, you don't like it. What am I trying to say? So the CNN wouldn't be converting me against the government with Obama and Biden because they are on the same side. So it's obviously not far left propaganda. Um, you might say that during Trump, but it's the same thing. Obama started it, Trump kept it going, and
Mm-hmm.
Biden hasn't stopped it as far as I know. So
No, he just dropped
like
more bombs.
it's not it's not a left or right thing. That's the
Hmm.
problem. Like people say, well, there's two major parties and libertarians are just kind of these losers that never win. And it's like, no, there's
Yeah,
one party and the people, human beings, free people never win.
exactly. I've
There's
made this
no
point.
free
I've tried to explain this to them that the problem with democracy isn't that it's involves forcing people who don't consent to things being done. It's that it weaponizes the people against the other people. Because when someone wants to run for power, they have to promise one half they're gonna give them something in return. You start bribing votes. Every
Mhm,
partisan bribes their voters by offering them something or something for the vote. And when you
right.
have that happen, you're gonna have one guy target his base, one guy target his base, and you have people versus
Mhm,
people. Look at
yeah.
the Cold War. Look at those people fight. Democracy has led to all of us not being able to talk to each other on anything without yelling. It's
Yeah.
like this is all due to democracy and people who still support it, despite just looking around.
Hmm.
It's silly. So this episode will be dropping on 4th of July.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and I figured I'd post on the most patriotic day for Christian people to celebrate it. I post this and spam my family with this video about why everything sucks. Like maybe America could be better if we didn't bomb children all the time. I mean,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
put this out whether it's public schools, government funded abortion, or military. We have a very high rate of killing children. You
Right.
know, and
Yeah.
people Christians didn't support this thing, and like they, I mean, your government that you support and you want to pay your taxes for, bomb children, have the schools that have a higher molest rate than almost anywhere.
Hmm.
I mean, everything the government touches when it comes to involving kids is either abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, or deaths.
Hmm.
It's like there's zero things they do with children that I would consider at all peaceful.
Right.
And
Yeah. The
uh,
biggest threat to our children is the government.
exactly. And it's what was it, Michael Malice quote? Socialists don't disregard your property as their property. Worst of all, they regard your children as their children.
Yes.
It's
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
So let's go
Oh,
ahead.
oh no, I was just thinking like, because I wrote my thoughts down and we had talked about the why do Christians like seem to love war.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking that my favorite stories in the Bible were the Old Testament, like Joshua and Judges, where they were always fighting and the violent sections,
Mm-hmm.
kill all of the non-Hebrews and those types of things. And so I think that's one thing that we kind of get that like, well, America is God's chosen people now, so we should kill all the non-Americans, or especially the evil heathen Muslims. Those guys are definitely the ones that none of them. Like there's like signs. Somebody will have like God loves you bumper sticker, then the next one says kill them all and God sort them out. That's the Marine. It's like,
uh,
wait a second. If you love everyone, how can you say it like that? I mean, you should be trying to save these people, not just murder them all. Or, most people don't think of it like, well, they don't think I'm killing these people, but you're not saying anything about it as your government orders your brothers and your sons to do it.
mm-hmm.
Um, and if anybody is wondering, I could say I was in the Navy, so um, I I used to really be glad of that, but now I'm kind of sorry about it because I was a participant in the beginning of the 20 years long war
Mm-hmm.
in Iraq and Afghanistan. Um, so I'm not just some guy. I actually was there. And at the time, I thought, well, these guys did 9/11, so we're going to have to kill them all. And it's like, no, there's like a bunch of Saudi guys, and we're not even going to Saudi Arabia. So like, what's the freaking point? But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's that. There's the Old Testament. Plus, obviously there's so many American movies, and
Hmm.
I think that totally gets us to think about, well, these foreign people are weird and they don't speak English well or at all, and so we gotta root for the good guys, the American guys. And I honestly, I mean, if it was a team of Black and Hispanic soldiers, we'd still root for them against the Muslim soldiers. It's not like, oh, we have to root for the blonde white guys. It's like,
Hmm.
that's not the point. I think it's the flag. It's kind of like with the police. I think it's not about color. It's like, you're not blue. You know,
Hmm.
the whole back of the blue, like that's what they see. So if you're not a cop, you're a potential enemy, and
Hmm.
so we'll throw you on the ground, shoot your dog, and kneel on your neck for 9 minutes, to make sure you're not a threat.
Hmm.
And we're not going to stop the guy who's doing that. Like that's what gets me about that one case. Like he was kneeling on the guy for 9 minutes and nobody told him to stop. Like the people did, but none of the other officers did. And that's just, so anyway, that's what I think the soldiers are the same way. It's like, it's not about color. It's about, these are your brothers. And I understand that. And I can feel that to some extent. These are your brothers, whatever, brother, band of brothers and all that. But it's like, just remember you're the invaders. Like, I was thinking there's two Red Dawn movies, the old one from the
Yeah.
80s, and they remade it.
The good one and the bad one. That's
Yeah,
that's very.
right. And it's like, okay, the first ones were Russians. The second one I think was North Korea,
Yeah.
and the Americans were the ragtag, storekeepers that found a few guns and were setting off IEDs
Hmm.
and killing the bad guys. It's like, that's the people we call the Taliban now. I mean, yeah,
Exactly.
there's some really bad guys who do some really bad things in that group, but most of them, they were maybe ambivalent, and then their brother's, phone store got blown up and killed the brother and his wife and daughter,
Mm.
and now it's like, well, damn, like these Americans really suck. And then this guy's offering, he said, you know, we'll pay your family money if you carry this explosive device up to this American troop convoy and blow them up. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm pissed off at these guys for killing my brother and his family, so why not? I'm poor. My brother's phone store was the only way I had any money, and
Hmm.
they blew that up for no reason. So why not go and kill myself and meet Allah and pay my family some money? It's like,
Yeah.
so these guys aren't evil. Um, you know,
Mm.
everyone does bad things, and we can't say that we wouldn't do something like that again. If the Red Dawn thing happened in our time, a lot of people are these boogaloo guys, and you know, they would be like, oh, we'd be fighting those, anybody that comes across the border, anybody that, invades America, we're going to
Exactly.
get our guns out and we're going to fight them.
Exactly.
And it's like, yeah, I agree. I mean, I would be in there with you guys, but
Mm.
like, that's not, I
Yeah.
mean, we wouldn't see ourselves as the bad guy in that case.
Exactly. Like I've used this to. I have a lot of friends who are Christian pro-war people, and I talked to them, and that's how I convinced one guy to be a little bit more anti-war.
Uh-huh.
As we're talking about a foreign power invading, he was like, if China comes over here, I'm gonna get my
Yeah.
guns. I'm gonna get in the woods. We're gonna do some guerrilla shit. We're gonna.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you sound like Taliban.
Yeah.
Like literally,
I mean,
they that's like we all are attacking them. Like, yeah, bro, but we have a good reason for them. Like, what's the reason? He goes, 9/11. I'm like, that wasn't even these people. We're here now. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So professional on me. It's like, well, we're there now because of all the other nonsense. And I go,
yeah.
like I started showing him Scott Horton videos and explaining
Yeah.
it to him and stuff. But now he's not. I'm not gonna say he's anti-war, but he's anti everything we're currently doing.
Right.
Which is good enough. And
Yeah.
this dude, I was talking to him the other day, and he apparently was at his friend's house, or for like a family gathering or something. And he just started explaining this everything to his family. Like, he started explaining it to his family and like arguing, like it's like he's not an ANCAP yet, but I've got him like arguing like basically anarchist principles to his family.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty fun to watch hear about.
Yeah, it's good to see you have a disciple.
Oh, it's the moment you get a moment I have like two people following me and one guy knew mimicry when I was saying like I have too much power. I'm done. As an anarchist, I have to reject all this hierarchy and power. I gotta leave. And we're running out of time. This has been a lot of fun. Do you have anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to say? And yeah, do you have anything you want to add?
Oh, well, I just give a shout out to apparently I found this great quote: "War is the health of the state." Randolph Bourne. I think that's a very good point. It seems like most people might think, yeah, America kicks everybody's ass, so we're really good. And it's like that's not how it works. I mean, it's just like a human being. If you're constantly fighting people and punching people for no reason, like, hey, you look at my dog, Bill. Like you'd say this guy's mentally deranged. So it's the same thing. It's like not only do you hurt yourself when you fight someone, but you know, it doesn't present a picture of mental health. And then also like people that always think like, oh, you hate the military and all this stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, you know, if you want to forget about all the foreigners who died, but let's talk about how many members of the military either die or they lose body parts. I mean, why do 20 soldiers a day commit suicide? Because they're proud of their service? I don't think so.
Yeah.
They have bad memories. Maybe they're guilty. Maybe they just have bad, you know, nightmares of all the chaos and stuff they went through. I mean, either way, you know, it's pretty awful what they went through. And I thank God that I was on a ship, so I was safely, you know, pretty much not in danger really. And so I'm really glad about that. But it's so many people. I mean, the soldiers who die from suicide is way more than the soldiers that have been killed in war by the enemy. So, I mean, I would say that means that the enemy is not hurting us as much as our soldiers are hurting themselves. Because why? Because did they did and experienced things that are pretty horrible. So I think if you're pro soldier, pro troops, you should be saying with us, bring them home and stop killing people. And it also includes don't think that bring our soldiers home and then drone bomb them. That's still not the right answer.
Yeah.
But bring our troops home. I mean, we can discuss about like, do we need troops in Germany and Korea and Japan where there's our friends? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily take them all out, but we definitely could draw down the number of troops. And you know, I mean, I think about people are worried about the border security, and I always think about like, why don't we bring our troops back, have them train in the desert along the border of Arizona, and you know, if anybody comes through, we can, you know, that's our border protection, and that's a way to keep our troops safe in America and not off in some foreign theater looking for monsters to slay, creating more terrorists every time, you know. I think, yeah, one more thing that they call it, I think it's called insurgent math. Have you heard of that?
I've not.
Where like that, like this is a thing. Like all the guys over there know this. Like when you kill 5 insurgents, how many insurgents are left? The answer is 20, because each of those insurgents had 4 or 5 brothers and sisters and father, son, you know. So now you've called, you know, these, like I said, ambivalent people now, oh, my brother died or my son died, so now I'm going to join the fight. So
Exactly.
it's like the self-licking ice cream cone. I think that's one of Scott Horton's favorite ones too. Like we keep making more and more terrorists. So these fiscal conservatives need to look at the biggest part of the budget, which is the military-industrial complex. That's where all the money, that's where the biggest part of our budget goes to is, you know, Raytheon and all those guys.
Mhm.
buying their planes and bombs and whatnot. And so, if you want to reduce spending in America, definitely stop funding Planned Parenthood, but also stop funding all these wars. Stop, just stop. I don't know. Like that's
Yeah.
my key there. Just stop.
Just stop.
Um,
That'd be my campaign slogan. Just stop.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
that's a
I
great
have
one.
the bumper stickers and everywhere. Just knock it off.
Stop.
You know,
Yeah,
that'd be I'd run on that.
yeah,
Okay. Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. Anyone listening? Hope you have a good week. Happy 4th of July. Go read some
yeah,
more books.
yeah.
Bye
Read
bye,
some
everyone.
books, have some hamburgers, and remember, you're so free today to take off your mask.
That's right. One more warning: don't wear a damn mask.